Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt
And
Roast.
I'm Jessica Bun Bun.
Welcome to our reaction and review for House of the Dragon Season 3, Episode 3, or what we could basically call the Season 3 premiere, because listen, the last two episodes, they were really a part of Season 2. This feels like the whole reset. Rhaenyra is now queen, but of course, if you are
Mhm.
queen, there are a lot of consequences that come with that. You get some benefits, but you also have to deal with a lot.
Well, so far, I don't even know what those benefits are. Like, okay, she's got the throne, but at the same time, she has seemingly inherited a lot of problems. Things are not going the way that she thought they would. Everybody wants something from her. And not only that, but she's back in the palace where her father passed away. All, she grew up there. A lot of really bad things were happening as she was, giving birth, and Alicent's there, and it's all getting really messy. It was just a place filled with bad memories, and this whole episode felt like I was going through bad memories with her.
Yeah, there's something going on with Rhaenyra throughout this episode, and the show articulates that with the editing, with the
Yes.
music, with visuals at times.
Yeah.
Like, she is really struggling for a lot of potential reasons as she goes through sort of her early days on the throne. And I'm not going to sit here and act like this episode was as strong, at least to me, as the first two, but I think that's to be expected given the sort of material that we had there. But I do think this is a very effective episode when it comes to getting inside Rhaenyra's head, seeing where she is at, and then watching the relationship between Rhaenyra and Alicent, which I know for a lot of people is kind of the core of the
Hmm.
show, which also makes it a little bit weird that Matt Smith is like at the very, very start of the opening credits. Like, listen, I know he's the biggest name, but he's not. This is Alicent and Rhaenyra's show, right?
But before we get any further, be sure to hit that subscribe
Mm-hmm.
button and stick with us throughout the season. We will be here after every episode talking about House of the Dragon. So thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed.
Also, we are really, really thankful to everyone who is supporting us on YouTube memberships. Over there,
Mhm.
we are going to be doing some exclusive House of the Dragon content that we are not doing here on regular YouTube. And
Mhm.
beyond just that, we're also covering exclusively their Sugar, which is on Apple TV. It stars Colin Farrell. If you love a classic noir, it is that and so much more with some great twists. And supporting us through YouTube memberships, it helps us to be able to continue to make this content. So
Mhm.
thank you so,
Thank
so
you.
much.
Okay, I know that this wasn't as exciting of an episode as the first two episodes were. I mean,
Yeah.
really, yes, they were the end of last season. It makes sense that they would be huge and epic and battles and, taking over the throne. But this episode really laid the groundwork really well for Rhaenyra, that now that she is queen and she has the throne, is it everything that she expected or hoped that it would be? I mean, she's been robbed and she doesn't have any money. People are kind of conflicted on whether they're actually going to bend the knee to her or not. She's got to figure out who she can trust, who she can't. There's rats running around everywhere. There's ghosts throughout this place for her. I mean, her as a child there, growing up into being a woman there, everything that happened when Alicent was there, married to her father, and she was still there. There's a lot of animosity. There's so much happening there for her. And this episode brilliantly laid that out in a way that I felt for her. I felt like all this anxiety watching it and seeing it all over her face as well. Of like, here's the next person that wants something from me, and the next person. Oh no, look, there's a pile of rats over here. And it was just, it was so anxiety inducing. Great job.
I think what is most successful about this episode in that way is it's oddly relatable, and not in the
Yep.
sense that, like, I'm assuming that there aren't many kings or queens watching this video. I mean, prove me wrong in the comments, but I think we can all relate to that idea, though, of being really overwhelmed and having a lot of people asking different things of us. Like, I come out of this episode really feeling deep in my heart I would be a terrible king because I want to make everybody happy. Like, I'm an ultimate people pleaser in that way.
You're a proud
I
people
am a
pleaser.
proud people pleaser. Like, I really like making people happy. I like
Sure.
feeling like I'm the hero. And like, there's this part of me that was cheering for Rhaenyra as she was trying to do all these heroic things, giving back to the small folk, getting back all those supplies that were stolen by the nobles. Like she's trying her best to spare Daronda. Like she's really putting her all into this. But I'm sitting back and I'm seeing already like the physical and mental toll it's taking on her. Like you can't possibly keep that up. And then like beyond all that, she's trying desperately to be like Viserys, to be like
Mhm.
her father, who really was this good and noble king, but there wasn't a split Targaryen house in the same way when Viserys was
Yep.
king. Like it was a much, I don't want to say easier situation, but it was very different. Like this is not a one for one. Rhaenyra can't be him.
Well, also she's looking at Viserys as the gold standard,
Hmm.
and she's not really keeping in mind that has years and years and years of experience past what she has. He was king for much longer than a day. She's been there a minute.
Yeah.
For her to get her footing and be like, "Oh, I want to be just like Viserys." Okay, cool, but that's going to take time
Yeah.
to be able to cultivate that. I found it really interesting and actually a bit hopeful because I do really like seeing Rhaenyra and Alicent working together instead of against each other. And I know that that's the whole premise of the show is having them kind of working against each other and all
Hmm.
these misunderstandings. But it has been fun to really watch them come together in that way. I really like that after everything Rhaenyra was seeing and going through, that she finally got to rock bottom where she's like, Allison, how did you do this? Because when my father was sick, you were absolutely running the show. How did you do that and make sure that everybody was happy and everything was getting done? And she was very honest about it to
Hmm.
say, listen, you're going to have to make decisions that will make your stomach turn, things that you don't want to do, but you have to do. You have to look at greater picture sometimes instead of smaller problems, and you have to find a way to put it into different compartments in your mind and eat the things that you don't want to end up eating for the betterment of the entire kingdom. And while Rhaenyra's like, no, I'm going to be just like Viserys, he didn't have to do that. She's like, yeah, that's right. He didn't have to do that. But he was in a different position than you or I when we are now trying to run this place. And because Rhaenyra has really been sitting back and not knowing who she can trust and who she can't, I will say that while she has not been able to trust Alicent for a lot of her life, she has also been able to trust Alicent for a lot of her
Yes.
younger life, including everything that Alicent tried to do to get her on the throne. It didn't work out exactly right. And they did have that conversation where it was like, well, I didn't get Aegon. And she's like, okay, you didn't get this one thing, but you killed my dad. You have the throne. I opened the gates. I did everything that I said that I was going to do. I got Aemond out of here. I've done everything I possibly can.
This is where I just think this episode had a lot of just wonderful surprises. And to me, the relationship between these two women being worked out in this way, I was legitimately surprised about. And I think some of this is me viewing the episode through my own lens of, just like I am a proud people pleaser, I'm also proudly very emotional a lot of the time. And I did not,
Same, I'm a Pisces. Pisces. It's
I
Pisces seasons all the time over here.
I did not expect that Alicent was going to have the fortitude to, after seeing Otto at the end of this past episode, and I know it's not like Alicent and Otto were going to like father-daughter picnics or anything like
No.
that, but it's still a lot to see your dad dead in
Mhm.
that way and have Rhaenyra, your childhood friend, standing right there. But her to have just the foresight to know, I can't react that much. I have to settle in. I have to understand, okay, this is what it is. I can't freak out. Like she really steels herself and puts herself in this position where she can listen to Rhaenyra later on in this episode. And I
Mhm.
think because of everything you spelled out earlier in this video when it comes to Rhaenyra playing out all these past events in her head, there's just this psychological element to this episode that I'm still trying to understand. Like I'm getting a little confused about it as this episode goes along, but no matter what, it does feel like Rhaenyra is in a spot where she can actually communicate with her later.
Yeah, so my tinfoil hat theory
Mhm.
is, and I know that obviously there's the books out there and everything that's happened, but the show has steered away from some of the content in the books and it is doing some of its own thing. So it's possible that this is where it could be going or not going. We haven't read the book, so we don't
Yeah.
know actually where it goes. But is it possible that Alicent could end up being an advisor and on the new small council for Rhaenyra? I mean, Rhaenyra's fired her whole small council, thank goodness. I mean, all they were doing was fighting with her all the time. Oh, you
Yes.
want this? No, 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 no. Like her small council was bad. They never really seemed to have her back on anything. So having that gone, yes, she doesn't have enough advisors at this point, but Alicent is somebody who has steeled herself throughout the years. She
Yeah.
got married to Viserys very young and had to learn to really put things in compartments from being a child to now being a woman.
That's always been the hard part with Rhaenyra and her storyline. Like, I love Rhaenyra and I love elements of Team Black, but a lot of people on Team Black just kind of suck, if we're being totally honest here. Like, even Daemon, incredibly entertaining as Daemon may be, he's also a jerk. He's also very impulsive. He doesn't think a lot of things through. He has a very specific lens where he views the world. I love this idea. I want Alicent to be on a council with Rhaenyra because I think Rhaenyra should recognize it only benefits her to bring people together who have different backgrounds, different ways of thinking, because if she views the world through only one lens like Daemon, she's only going to get so much done. And she's also going to commit a lot of mistakes that she's never going to be able to walk back.
Well, here's the other thing. Alicent and Helena are kind of like, oh, you said that if we did this, you'd let us go. And
Yeah.
Rhaenyra's like, I will, but like, I still have a couple things I need to tie up. We've got Aemon still out there, Aegon still out there. Oh, just declare him dead. This is what happened to him. He's
Yeah.
unrecognizable. Just declare him dead and keep it moving. Aemond out there will not be able to take over by himself. So, like, don't worry about it. But also for Alicent, she has betrayed both of those sons.
Mhm.
So, if she's just out there in the world, she's in huge danger of just being killed by one or both of them, especially Aemon. I mean, after all that's happened, he's definitely going to be looking for some sort of revenge on that. So, her staying with Rhaenyra and possibly counseling her is actually a best case scenario to keep her protected.
Yeah, like this is one of the it's not an issue by any means because I think we're dealing with characters who are just dealing with a lot of set of circumstances and they can't think clearly. But with Alicent, I was questioning like, where are you gonna go
Yeah,
if you get out of this city? Because at first I was like, okay,
you can go hide in the Vale with Sheep Stealer.
go hide. That's probably it. Sheep Stealer may protect because you can't go back to Old Town. I mean, we'll get into Old Town a little bit later, but you've got too many family ties there. You're
Yep,
absolutely going to be labeled in a certain way that's not
yep.
favorable. Like you're just there's not a lot of other spots that can go that are going to suit you long term. Like Rhaenyra, I think at the very least will protect you because I think Rhaenyra recognizes that no matter everything that has happened, and there's been a lot of issues between the two of you, I think she knows that deep down, Alicent is a good person. And I think deep down, Rhaenyra is a good person. They have just been forced to do really bad, really questionable things by all this stuff that's just like swirling constantly around them.
If Alicent to me was truly like the worst of the worst, she would have said that that person is her son to be able to actually protect her son
Yes.
who's still out there. But she told the truth right away.
Yeah, like that is the clear evidence of it because Alicent is trying to look out for herself, obviously,
Of
but
course.
Helena and also everyone else in this world. Where I think if there is a recourse where Darren ends up being okay, if Rhaenyra finds out in that moment that Alicent was lying, like that is going to be curtains for the real Darren. So it's just like she is thinking with all of these other people in mind. Like Alicent is a very selfless character in that way. I mean, we can argue that both Rhaenyra and Alicent are a little bit too selfless for the world that they're living in. It's kind of to go back to the whether or not I could be king, to go to a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. It's why Sir Duncan the Tall could never be king because you have all these virtues this is Westeros. This is not a virtuous world. Like, really bad things happen to people in power.
Okay, I want to talk about White Worm for a second because there was some weirdness going on in this episode that was just like, is she a witch? Is she controlling some of what is going on here? Because we had this really weird scene. I mean, this whole episode was kind of strange, but
Mhm.
we had this really odd scene where, she's walking with Rhaenyra and she's like, listen, there are other claimants still out there to the throne. You have one here. Daron's here right now. He's somebody who's a claimant to the throne. You got to do something about that. And Rhaenyra's like, I don't know. He hasn't really done anything. He's committed no crimes. He's such a young guy. I don't know how I feel about it. Then we have this shot where you have White Worm like kind of blurry in the background watching Rhaenyra, who is watching somebody walk by, who all of a sudden she's envisioning Jace walking by. I'm like, it's interesting that's happening right at that moment, because as soon as that person ended up walking by and she was like, oh, okay, it's not Jace. She was like, you know what? I think you're right. I think that we should do something about Daron. He is a claim to the throne. You're right. This could be a thing. And you've got White Worm being like, yeah, you're right. And I was like, she didn't even ask Rhaenyra for a second if she's just kind of like blacked out for a second where she's not talking, she's mid-sentence,
Yeah.
stop talking, to be like, hey, are you all right? Everything okay, bro? Like, I don't know what's happened, but all of a sudden you just stopped talking and you kind of went into your head. Anything wrong? She didn't ask that at all. And the minute she didn't ask that, I was like, it's because she's the person who's making that vision happen. She already knows. I don't know. Tinfoil hat. What do you guys think?
I think it's plausible. I think that the biggest reason why it's plausible to me is that if White Worm was a different person and had a different history with Rhaenyra, you could make this argument that it's like, okay, she wouldn't ask how she is because she doesn't want to upset the apple cart. But because there was this intimate connection with
Yeah.
these two last season, like they have an emotional bond, one that Damon, by the way, is clearly very jealous of in a way that's very entertaining to me. But
And he should be.
yeah, it just feels to me like she would ask that question, that she would feel like she has like that emotional clearance, regardless of if Rhaenyra is the queen or not, to be like, hey, what's going on? And we know that this is a world where obviously you've got witches, you got people like Alice out there. You've also
Sure.
got people who have other pseudo supernatural components to who they are. I do think because especially House of the Dragon has deviated so much from Fire and Blood, and my understanding as a non-reader is that even Fire and Blood was told with a lot of unreliable narrators, that it just feels like there is that leeway. But ultimately, whatever's going on with Rhaenyra, as alluded to earlier, it is strange and it is a little bit confusing because, yeah, she's had these pauses in this episode. There's this unsettling music behind her, but this is the only
Yeah.
time like she has a very specific vision. And I think that's why we have to sit back and be like, why is it this moment? And why does her mind change after the fact? Like, it is just very, very strange. We can argue, like, is
Yeah.
it too vague? Is it the show wanting us to think something's going on with White Worm? It's just a very bizarre situation to watch.
Okay, another bizarre situation to watch was everything that was going on with Corlys and him asking Rhaenyra, listen, you probably figured it out, but
Mhm.
these are my sons and I want them to have, my last name, be really part of my house. And, I need you as the queen to do this for me. And she's just like, because she knows that her sons are in the same sort of situation. And because she doesn't want to shine a light on that, since most of her children are gone now except Joffrey, she's like, okay, send for Joffrey. I gotta bring him back now. He's gonna end up being the heir, so I gotta like raise him up. Because she can't have that spotlight on herself, she's like, Corlys, I'm sorry. And he's just called it all out. Good for you, Corlys.
I okay, I'm just gonna put on a hard hat here, and I might be very wrong in saying this. This may be ultimate people pleaser coming out. I think she made a mistake. I think she had to go ahead and do this. Like, I understand her argument. I understand everything she's saying. All of that might be true. I'm just thinking from the vantage point of, do you really want to risk losing another ally? And yeah, I understand
Yes.
Corlys's place burned down, and it's like he's not in the most stable position to help you anymore.
But he's been so loyal. Like,
Yeah.
just let them have the name.
Let them have the name. Let them just hope that there's going to be enough going on here that there are going to be whispers again about you and Jace Shore and Joffrey, all that. Like I 100,
Of course.
but there already were. It's not like
Right.
this is a new, it's not a new phenomenon that everyone is running around questioning this. I just think this was a sacrifice that she had to make from the vantage point of keeping people happy. Obviously, she's not privy to everything that's going on with Ormond, the idea that this conflict may not be over at this point, but even still, just give this man a win. He's gone through so much already.
Absolutely. This is not anything that people haven't already been talking
Yeah,
about. She's really living in a box if she thinks that people are not still talking about it or
yeah.
that it won't be back in the spotlight in a way, anyways. It's not going to have anything to do with Corlys at all.
Okay, I just want to pose a question for you and everybody else out there. Did you guys suspect that this was not the real Daron as this
Nope,
episode was? I did not
I did
either.
not.
I was
I did
completely
not.
floored. Okay, we're on the same page here. This is what I'm calling the reverse egg, where we had Egg pretending like he was not a Targaryen when he was. Here we have somebody pretending to be a Targaryen when they're not. And yeah, I just, because I was so sucked in on this idea that we all know that Daron is out there
Yes.
somewhere. We suspected all this back in season 2. I just never thought that they would plant some sort of fake, because this is where Ormond, we have to have a talk here. What are you trying to pull at the end of all of this? I understand you're overtaking a city. You think you're using some of Rhaenyra's people as human shields and all that. Like, I totally get it. But she's got dragons. Like, she is outnumbering you. Like, it just doesn't feel like there is actually a good end for you at the end of all this.
Like, I know he was probably just buying time and knew at some point she was going to figure it out,
Yeah.
but like, Damon was right there, and I know that he may not have recognized this person at all, but
Yeah.
at the same time, he was like, I'll take Daron and the dragon because that dragon being out there, that's a problem. I don't want to deal with that problem. So, how was he able to get all that back then? With somebody who is not Daron? I was just like, okay, they're gonna maybe try to have somebody else riding that dragon back. Did he not get the dragon back? It was something that he mentioned, and then we never really saw anything further with it.
Yeah, there's just a lot of questions here. There's a lot of questions for Damon. There's a lot of questions for Orva, which, by the way, I will say, while I was completely surprised about it, I'm glad we got this twist, because
Mhm.
Ormond, I'm just gonna say it, he's kind of boring. And I know James Norton. He was on Grantchester at the
Mhm.
start of, like, he's a big enough name that I didn't think this was the last time we were gonna see him or anything. But this character right now is just kind of vanilla. He looks just sort of like generic knight. I know he's more than that, but this does establish, all right, we've got still some sort of rival out there for the throne who
Yeah.
is Alicent's blood. What is he going to try to do? And is he going to then try now to pair up with Aemon, pair up with, and like there's going to be some sort of resistance forming with all of these people? Okay, I will say I'm pretty disappointed we didn't get any Aemon
Mhm.
over the course of this episode. Listen, I mean, I know the show hasn't said one way or another if he's still alive, but I mean, I cannot fathom a world where they're getting rid of Aemon at this point.
No, I don't think so. He's such a huge character, and there's still so much more story to tell. I feel I
Yeah.
just, if that's it, and she, Alice is just showing up to watch him bleed out on the floor, then they really should have just totally showed us that. But because he was sort of still last legs, being like, "Help me," like we gotta assume that she might.
I just feel like they're gonna have a very common bond. They are members of the I Hate Damon Club at this point,
Right?
because Damon wouldn't give Alice anything. We already
Yep.
know Aemon's not gonna be the biggest fan of Damon. Like, they have something that if they can have some conversations, like, I don't know exactly where that relationship would go, but that's fascinating, meaty material. Like, I would rather have a minute of Aemon in this episode. And I know it's not like we got Kristen in this episode either, but it's just like, take away whatever you need to from Kristen Cole and everything going on there. Just give it all to Aemon, because he's too compelling a character, like him or not, to just leave him off screen for a large period of time.
I think the problem is like looking at this episode as a whole, if they had cut away to that, I think it would have taken away from the vibes of this episode. And I mean, like, I am an Eamon fan. If
Mhm.
you've been here a while, I really enjoy watching this character. I don't like him as a person. He's kind of a terrible person, but I find him really fascinating and really compelling. But I feel like the way that they put this episode together, because it was so focused on Rhaenyra and all the things that were going wrong, one after another, just exploding, that if it was like, oh, all of a sudden going on back at Harrenhal, I would be feeling a lot like I did in season 2, where we would get these cuts and go back to, Daemon wandering around the damp palace for 6 episodes. And I don't need it to go like that again, not for Aemon.
Yeah, I feel like Eamon's either going to have, I don't want to say a full episode, but he's going to have a
No.
huge chunk of an episode at some
Yeah.
point, probably dedicated to all this. But since we were so focused in King's Landing, like the
Mhm.
last thing I will say here is Daemon. I wish the show had pushed back a little bit later this season some of Daemon's conversations about Rhaenyra. We could be gods. We could go over to Dorne. We could go to this place. We could go to that place, where it's just like, dude, can you not read the room at all? Like, I understand that Daemon is a very focused character on these specific things. He only really knows how to fight. He doesn't know how to lead in the way that Viserys did. But it's kind of like, at the same time, you can see that there is famine around you, Daemon, that nothing in King's Landing is that stable. I was a little surprised, and it made the character feel a little bit too one note to me, that he would be bringing all of this to the table to Rhaenyra, like, right now, when she's even just having a struggle of getting like a proper coronation set. It's just like, dude, can you just not wait a minute?
Yeah, it was brought up interestingly because he tried to frame it in, hey, these other places have coin. This is something
Yeah.
that maybe we can go get that money, bring it back here, spread it out, and we'll actually be wealthy again. And, we'll be able to do more good. But by the time he got to the end of it, it's like, we can be gods. I'm like, okay, Homelander. So that's what this is really about. This is not about
Yes.
going and getting coin and helping everybody out and whatever. You're telling your wife what she needs to hear
Yeah.
to be like, okay, we'll be gods.
Yeah, and I think somewhere in Rhaenyra, because she is the wife, she's been around Daemon long enough, she probably caught the drift on this relatively, I don't know, midway through the process. It
Yeah.
just feels like they can do a little bit more to give Daemon more depth than this. Like, I enjoy watching Matt Smith. I thought everything at the start of the episode, yeah, he was very prickly, to say the least, in his moments with Ormond. I bought all that. I didn't fully buy that he was going to go that far down the rabbit hole that quickly.
Yeah.
But that is where we are, coming out of House of the Dragon season 3, episode 3. What did you guys think about Rhaenyra's early days back in King's Landing? Let us know your thoughts, your theories, and be sure to join our memberships. We will have more discussion on House of the Dragon there. Thank you
Yep.
so much for your
Thank you.
support. We'll see you here next time.